Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 4 of the Timist Podcast Series. My name is James, and I am the Timist and the host of the thing you're currently listening to. In this episode, my co-host Conor and I talk about celebrity brand ambassadors and the purpose or role that they play within a watch brand. We also try and answer the question, what is a brand, and what does it mean for its past accolades when it's gone into solvency and then later purchased and revived by a new company? Case in point, Breitling and Universal Genève. Lastly, we close things out with a Q&A session. I put out the call on Instagram and you awesome people answered, sending me your questions. All this and more. So sit back, relax, grab a drink and a snack as we get started. Hey Conor, how's it going?
Hey, it's good. It's good.
We're back.
Yeah, back in your luxury penthouse.
That's not
located.
Nope.
50
I'm gonna let you
floors
finish.
over the skyline.
Ssure.
I mean, we're barely at the cloud level up
Oh my
here.
goodness, just stop.
I mean, it's like, what is it, 15,000 square feet?
Behave.
I'm sorry. The wraparound balcony is bananas. Everything's made of marble?
Good job. You broke me in the intro. Are you happy now?
It's a nice place.
Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. None of it is true, but thank you. And how's it going?
It's good. We are currently in the midst of Watches and Wonders.
It's bananas.
It's like, as we're recording day 2, so much information, so much going on, so much new stuff. It's very overwhelming. I don't know what it's like for you as someone not in the industry and as an enthusiast, but on my end of things, it's very overwhelming to keep track of what's in, what's out, what's new, when's it available, what's the price. It's just like, I honestly wish each brand had their own day or something, because everyone dropping everything day one is like, my eyes are crossed.
I can only imagine. I mean, I would say gone are the days where you could be on this side of the fence and not be bombarded with, I'm guessing, a bunch of texts and calls from folks as new things are being announced and released. But I don't want us to get into it too early on.
We are doing a wrap-up of Watches and Wonders post-podcast.
Indeed we are. That should be, in about a week. Yep. That'll be episode 5. But anyway, welcome to episode 4 if you just tuned in. Watches and Wonders in full swing. There is some new stuff that'll probably be announced towards the end of the week. But yeah, we don't want to talk about it too much right now because we want to make sure that when we do talk about it, we cover it in great detail and have it be all-encompassing. Yes?
Yeah, we've got less important things to talk about.
Okay, well, that's a great setup. So that's the news. Shall we go into the meat and potatoes of this episode?
Why are we here? What's this all about?
Why are we here? So you actually brought up this interesting topic, and that is specifically, what is a brand, and what about those celebrity brand ambassadors, eh? So you kind of put that in my brain, and I couldn't help myself, but I did a little bit of digging around to see just who exactly is a watch ambassador for what brand.
Yeah.
Do you have some?
I've been like a specific example.
Okay.
I'd like to go into a little detail on, but you've got a whole list there.
I do have
who's on the list?
So, I mean, let's start out with Rolex. Roger Federer, the tennis player, is on there. Yes.
Rolex is interesting in that they don't sponsor teams, they sponsor sports, or they sponsor events. Like They sponsor the Wimbledon tournament, they sponsor races,
F1,
and they sponsor people, but they don't sponsor like an F1 team
per se. Yep.
Or a football team or whatever it is. So they kind of are very interesting in how they choose their people or their events.
Next one is Omega or Omega, depending on where you're from in the world. Of course, we have the Daniel Craig. And then we also had, I believe, George Clooney at one point.
Yeah, I remember seeing him when they unveiled those kind of summer or light blue dials for the 70th anniversary of the Seamaster and stuff.
Very fresh blue.
You know, the interesting about the Omega thing with Daniel Craig, my understanding is that is through his contract as Bond.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not saying now that there's no more Bond movies, there's not going to be any more Daniel Craig, but I know that those are linked.
Interesting.
So I don't know if now that he's no longer Bond, if that's going to end or if it'll continue as, hey, it's just Daniel Craig, because, soon enough here, there'll be someone else as Bond who I assume will also be an Omega ambassador.
I think they've been announced already, maybe.
No, not officially.
Not officially. There was a AA maybe. We'll see. I guess we can keep an eye on it and see if we'll see a Daniel Craig wearing a Omega anytime soon. Next up on the list is Tag Heuer. Of course, we have the Ryan Gosling, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but at one point, Leonardo DiCaprio?
I wasn't clear on that one, but I wouldn't be surprised. Definitely everyone's favorite Baby Goose is a big LVMH tag guy.
Yep.
They put him on a lot of the advertising. A lot of people get more or less FaceTime than others. Some are kind of just like associated with an occasional photo shoot, a magazine ad, but definitely Gosling is front and center in the case advertising. They are really cashing in on him, so that's cool.
Yeah, actually, I will go back to Leonardo DiCaprio, and he was totally a tag brand ambassador because I distinctly remember seeing an ad of him looking out in the distance, all majestic-like and very focused, and he was holding, I think it was a Carrera chronograph, and he was holding it in his right hand, but the way he was holding it, it was like away from his face, and no way would it ever make sense for a person to hold a watch like that if they were ever wanting to actually look at it for themselves. So it was pointed outwards towards the camera, and he's looking out in the distance looking cool. And I just remember going like, nobody would hold a watch like that.
There's a lot of watch photography with celebrities and even just regular people where they're clearly like, hey, we're doing a photo shoot. Make sure your watch is in the photo shoot. And some, photographers or whoever is in charge of, posing and stuff, they do a pretty natural job. And sometimes it's like, oh, is that how you stand? You stand like that with your wrist? Like, no one stands like that. No one stands like that for half a second. And it just looks so unnatural.
Yeah.
That it really is just like, oh, this isn't working for me. It
Will
looks so posed.
Yeah, 100%. That reminds me of also, I think it was Will Ferrell with the Oris, the pink dial Oris, I think it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it was I don't know. But then again, it's kind of in his character to kind of be weird and kind of awkward. So maybe it was natural, but maybe not. I don't know. Let's keep going. Bulgari. Do you know who this is?
I do, yeah.
Who is it?
Zendaya.
It's Zendaya. That's right. That was an interesting choice. She's super front and center right now with June, also known as Dune. But if you're British, you say June.
Do you?
Well, I mean, I don't. But for our British-speaking folk.
It's Omega all over again.
Omega and June. AP, Audemars Piguet. There's I don't know this person, but as I was researching, Mark Ronson, supposedly...
Sounds like a fake name, to be honest with you.
Well, it kind of sounds like Ron Swanson, but it's not. It's Mark Ronson. They're a music producer and DJ, I think, from the UK. IWC, I think you know this one.
Tom Brady.
No, not Tom Brady, but pretty close. Bradley Cooper, the voice of Rocket from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
That is what he's best known for.
That is what he's best known for, I think. Cartier. You have Cartier. You sell Cartier.
Oh, Spider-Man. Spider-Man's as a Cartier guy.
Spider-Man?
Yeah, little boy Spider-Man, the current Spider-Man.
Tom Holland.
Yeah, he's a Cartier brand ambassador.
Interesting.
A lot of skeleton APs in that guy. Same with the guy who played Mysterio in those ones.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yep, also a Cartier guy.
I need you to be impressed because I never remember anyone's names.
I mean, you're like 10 for 10 on these.
Excellent, thank you. Okay. Rami Malek, though.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's funny because was the bad guy in the most recent Bond movie.
Yes, he was. Good bad guy.
Yeah.
Longines. Come on, you know this.
J-Law, Jennifer
Lawrence. And...
Who?
Kate Winslet.
Oh, nice.
I'm seeing a Leonardo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, Titanic crossover between Longines and Tag. We called it here first. Casio.
Oh.
This was... I did not expect this. I did not
Casio
know.
G-Shock or Casio?
Casio.
Huh.
But maybe G-Shock as well? I didn't dig that deep.
Who's Casio putting money in?
Casio is putting money in Blackpink, the South Korean girl band, the K-pop band.
K-pop band.
Yeah.
You don't really need to specify South Korean. I would have assumed that's the pop group. Oh, which Korea? Is this the North Korean pop band?
I'm not that cool. I figured I say the whole thing. I don't know all these things. I'm not hip and cool. Okay.
No one was accusing you of that.
Tudor.
Oh, our boy Beckham, of course.
Our boy Beckham. Bend it like Beckham. And Lady Gaga, apparently.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Breitling.
They have like a pretty like A-list celebrity cast where they have Brad Pitt.
Yep.
Adam
Driver.
Oh yeah, Adam Driver and what's her name? Charlize Theron. I saw they had done like a photo shoot recently. They're very like they did a good job, I think, because those three in particular, who are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head, kind of have that Breitling aesthetic, right? They can really pull off like a leather jacket, maybe like a cigarette dangling from the lips, like just a cool aesthetic. Those were well picked.
I agree. I
Expensive, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would think so as well. Victoria Beckham is also a Breitling ambassador.
Yeah, she put out. They had like new watches. That
yeah,
she was
the Chronomat, the Victoria Beckham editions.
Oh, they actually like labeled that way?
Yeah. So the counterbalance on the running seconds hand is there's a VB, Victoria Beckham. It's like a little initial thing.
Interesting.
They're pretty cool. I like them actually. And then of course, long time ago in a galaxy, well, our galaxy that's very close, John Travolta was a Breitling ambassador.
Was he now?
He was. I would actually admit to him being the guy that I first saw in a luxury watch magazine as a 15-year-old youngling, just browsing through and seeing him doing that cool pose. And he had the Navitimer on. He had like the aviation jacket on. There was like a P-51 Mustang in the background. I was like, man, that guy looks cool.
Wait, so you remember seeing it?
Yeah.
But you're saying it was influential on you.
Yeah, it really was.
You have a Breitling. You're a big fan of Breitling.
I am indeed.
Oh, cool. Okay, very cool. Because that's obviously we're getting into it. That's an important part of what these brand ambassadors are meant to do. Not just say, "Oh, look, it's Brad Pitt with the."
That's true.
Like it was influential on you.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, not that I was a huge John Travolta fan, but he was cool, and I knew who he was. Like I knew he was an actor. I knew he was a famous actor.
He's a pilot too.
He is.
Oh,
yeah.
Big connection there.
Yeah, he has a funky house, a massive house that has like a runway, and he parks his airplanes around his house.
I know you're more of a helicopter landing pad on the penthouse
on the roof.
Yeah. Okay.
Last but not least, Orient.
Orient has some brand ambassadors?
Yeah, absolutely. Orient has a very outspoken brand ambassador. Goes by the name of Teddy Balthazar. Always pitching the Bambino.
Teddy B.
We like
the man you want your daughter to bring home.
That's true. He's such a wholesome, kind, and nice guy.
Oh my gosh.
And he dresses to the nines always.
He always looks so warm.
Yeah.
Corduroy jackets and turtlenecks.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm sweating for you, Teddy. You see, he opened a store recently.
I did see that. Where is it? In Ohio? Cleveland.
Yeah, in Ohio.
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah, cool brands. Very cool. Good for him. I'd love to check that place out.
Same.
Even though it looks like a hallway.
Yeah, that's true. Teddy, invite us over. We'll do a podcast there. So that's all the brands that I could dig up with the 20 minutes that I had before the podcast. Interesting stuff.
Interesting stuff.
Right? With the reps, with the ambassadors, yeah?
Yes. So the reason I kind of want to talk about some of these people is one, to see, hey, are these people influential? Because obviously they're getting big checks. They're big business. These celebrities are more than just people, right? They are institutions in their own right.
Sure.
There's a reason people, I can't believe someone got $20 million to star in a movie. It's like they're doing more than acting. That's important, but they bring gravitas and credibility and all
power.
This stuff. Yeah, star power, exactly. Like a celebrity getting an endorsement is more than just putting a watch on Brad Pitt's wrist. It's getting his cosign. It's getting his face. It's getting his all that coolness. But what I think is interesting is that these are business deals and they have contracts, and those contracts run out. The person I mentioned earlier for IWC was very famous American quarterback Tom Brady, right? Not the most charismatic person in my opinion, but an incredible quarterback, right? Highly regarded in regards to the sport. He does tons of sponsorships. He's all over the place. So he had an IWC contract for a number of years. I couldn't tell you how many, but he wore IWC watches. He did the advertisements. If you went to an IWC boutique when they were kind of playing their videos and stuff, you'd see him wearing different Top Gun models and chronographs and all this kind of stuff.
I did not know.
You didn't know that. That's okay. That's fine. But what you do know, because you mentioned this to me earlier, is you're like, oh yeah, Tom Brady, he's a Rolex guy.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
So what if you're, probably listening to this podcast, you're a big fan of watches, you've most likely seen Tom Brady wearing very rare and exclusive and hyped Rolex watches.
Sure, yeah.
And that's okay. But he didn't wear those watches when he was under contract. He wore IWC watches, especially at official events.
Yeah.
Right? When they're like, hey, you'll be attending the ESPYs this year, assuming those still exist, make sure you wear an IWC watch. And it's outlined in a contract, right? It's not coincidence. It's very well chosen for an event. That contract is out, and now he's known for wearing Rolex watches. And for me, that kind of invalidates him wearing those IWCs, because now it feels like he did that for a paycheck and not because he really actually likes those watches. I'm not saying he doesn't like those watches. I'm not saying he doesn't wear his IWCs or throw them all away.
Yeah.
But that credibility is a bit tarnished. Brad Pitt, famous for his 222s. Right? He has a whole bunch of them. He has them in steel, he has them in gold, beautiful watches. He is not under contract from Vacheron Constantin.
He just did it.
He bought them or was given them or whatever the situation where he owns them. But did Brad Pitt spend Breitling money at VC? Because I know him for wearing VC. I've seen photo shoots for Breitling. The man wears Vacheron. I'm sure he wears Breitling too. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but it's complicated.
Yeah.
Because you can't say, hey, you're under contract, you will exclusively wear this watch. I mean, I suppose you could if you write the nice enough contract and write a big enough check.
So when you were talking about like exclusivity and like who wears what and why, the first thing that popped in my mind was famously, it's pretty recent too, Kevin Hart's talking watches with Ben Clymer on.
Man, I love APs.
He loves APs. And then it was kind of shocking at how much information he just kind of let out there, where he was essentially saying, I mean, I don't want to wear these. I want to wear other pieces, but I have to wear these, which is kind of like a weird problem to have, because I think most people that, I mean, if you're listening to a watch podcast, you know about Audemars Piguet and you know how expensive and difficult it is to actually acquire one. And so that's like complaining about like, man, this filet mignon is just, I'm so tired of filet mignon. It's just so, I just want to eat something else.
I suppose if you ate filet mignon every day.
I guess that's true, yes. But like, that's where my mind went when you were like, well, no, actually, depending on how ironclad that contract is, they're like, you will not wear anything else except for our brand, which is interesting.
Yeah. And so when you put a price tag and a contract on something, you get this legitimacy. You get this other person's star power and their legitimacy. But it has a time limit. IWC, going back to them, Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes-AMG, the Petronas team. Lewis Hamilton has, well, I guess they're not technically Lewis Hamilton watches, but the AMG Petronas team has watches, and Lewis Hamilton wore them, and he's often seen wearing full ceramic perpetual calendars made by IWC.
He's got the desert one, the really cool camo desert one, the beige one.
He's got that forest green one. He has that all white one. Bunch of cool ones. Very expensive, very complicated, really cool watches. Next year, it sounds like he will not be racing.
Kind of sounds like he'll be rocking a Richard Mille, maybe.
Exactly. If he goes to Team Ferrari, they have an RM sponsorship. And so I just gotta wonder, like, if I'm a fan of Hamilton, and therefore I was also a fan of IWC, am I now like, IWC's out, RM's in? Because he won't be wearing an IWC. I mean, like, he'll still wear one, but he won't be wearing one officially. He won't be wearing one on race day. He won't be wearing one on pre-race day or post-race day. He'll be wearing, most likely, an RM, or whatever team he's on will have a watch brand associated with it, and he'll be wearing that. So I guess my question is it worth paying for this legitimacy, knowing that it's on a time limit, and that when that time limit is up, it's very likely that that person will be seen wearing your rivals' watches, and that they're not under contract and they bought them.
So you probably don't know this about me, but I actually studied marketing management in The Hague for 2 years.
I didn't know you studied anything.
Rude. There's like a lot for me to unpack and dive into here, but I will get to it in my own way. So let me just jump right on it. I think most people that would consider themselves full watch enthusiasts couldn't really care less who was promoting what watch. As in, like, they wouldn't base their purchase decision on the celebrity that was rocking it. I personally know who Rami Malek is, but I didn't buy the WSTA 0040 Cartier tank because Rami rocked it. You know what I mean? But like a lot of things, it's a bit more complicated than that. So for the sake of it, let's just pretend that you and I, we own a watch brand. Let's say we're Zenith. And like every brand, we want to, place our products in the hearts and in the minds of our target audience, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then someone in the room goes, but who exactly is our target audience? Well, we'd slowly turn to our analytics team and ask them, based on the brand image that we want to cultivate and our future roadmap plan for, let's say, I don't know, the next 15 years, what does the market research depict as our target audience? But also, and this is where it gets important, which new areas of possible growth potential have we discovered that we should probably engage with? Because, as you know, like a brand is always seeking to appease their current fan base while also working hard to venture into areas that it is yet to secure, right? It's the nature of business. So naturally, the hope is that tapping a new audience via, let's say, celebrity exposure could possibly bring in new people into the brand fold and then turn them into proper enthusiasts. So in that sense, I feel like your point is super valid, but it is very transactional and very contractual in that me as the brand hiring Tom Brady, I know full well that however the duration is of this contract, be 5 years, 7 years, doesn't matter. I know that I am basically using your star power to potentially tap into a new audience. Once it's over, I know it's over. Like we made a deal, it's complete. You can now wear whatever you want. It is what it is. If we've garnered new customers in that process, like during that duration, win, because then I will have achieved what I wanted. I wanted to bring in new people that maybe would not have looked at IWC or at Zenith or at, what have you, fill in the blank. But there was like an additional layer that could potentially attract customers in. So that's how I would recommend viewing celebrity brand ambassadors. They're not there for you or for me. They're not hired to promote a watch to the type of people that record a podcast, nor to the people that actually listen to a watch podcast. They're there to intrigue and possibly attract people that may like their movies or their style or their persona. And within that combo of intrigue and attraction, maybe these people will like the watch. Maybe they try it on at an AD. And then maybe, wait, look at that. Now they're fans of Zenith or of IWC or whatever. But it's all really just like another avenue for a brand to try and cement themselves at basically the forefront of our minds and our hearts. Whether it's like through Watches and Wonders for us watch nerds or through famous people wearing cool watches at movie premieres and in promos and videos and posters. It's just one more tool in the arsenal that is basically growing your brand and making it memorable in the minds of people. Because honestly, truthfully, what's the downside? What? I'm not going to buy that Tudor because David Beckham models it?
Yeah. Well, specifically the downside would be, in my mind, celebrities are subject to scandal.
Oh, yeah,
Tiger Woods was Tudor. Tiger Woods was Rolex. Tiger Woods went through a period of deep scandal in his career.
Yeah.
Lance Armstrong.
Yeah, sure.
I think he had a watch. But either way, he was, for a long time, regarded as someone with massive, unprecedented achievements in cycling, and now his reputation is fairly tarnished. So that would be the risk, is that these celebrities represent way more than just an individual. They are still an individual, and sometimes stuff comes out about these individuals that's bad.
True.
Really bad.
Super true.
Sometimes incredibly bad. So that would be the risk. I guess I think you're right, though, because as you were saying all that, I think I was caught up in the context of I'm extremely exposed to all this. So are you, right? Yeah. I'm seeing these images I think of when I see Brad Pitt in my head wearing the Vacheron 222. These are he's at some random event and someone took a picture and then some, kind of watch blogger was like, oh, that's a reference, da-da-da-da. Most people are not seeing that, and most people aren't aware that he's a Breitling guy. So, yeah, I guess it is maybe a little more on me than it would be on the average person who may or may not be well pictured.
Yeah, but I'm just imagining like my aunt watching, a commercial and she sees Kate Winslet rocking a Longines and she doesn't know anything about watches truly, but she knows Kate Winslet, be like, oh, that's a pretty watch. And maybe she's at the mall and goes inside the AD and sees the, poster of Kate Winslet on the wall next to the Longines boutique section. It's it's just an additional avenue that otherwise someone like my aunt wouldn't be exposed to, just wouldn't be going down the path of let me look at that Longines because it looks cool. It's just an additional layer, additional avenue for someone to kind of go down towards and potentially be exposed to a brand. And then, that might turn into a long-term relationship with the brand and they turn out to be a watch nerd like us, or it could just be a one-time thing. But either way, that brand has sort of benefited from that collaboration or that contractual sort of agreement with that star power. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. And I think for us, there's the risk of a brand, maybe the optics being that maybe it's a little icky. But at the end of the day, again, I wouldn't not buy a watch because somebody did a promo for it, unless they ended up being someone horrible.
So then that means it would have influence over you.
I guess.
What if you just didn't like them? They weren't necessarily embroiled in scandal, but you're just I freaking hate X actor, singer, musician, whatever it is. I just dislike this person, and now they're wearing that watch. That makes me like that watch a little less.
I'm not going to let someone else's life choices, decisions, or image affect me.
I think it's a question of are you able to separate the art from the artist?
Oh, well put.
And I'm not.
I don't care.
And I think that's not a wrong decision. I don't think it's like, oh, you wear those shoes, therefore you support these remarks and all that. I definitely don't attune to that at all.
More to talk about brands. What is a brand? I think you wanted to talk about.
So yeah, brands. This came to me rather in the context of Breitling's recent purchase of Universal Genève.
Ah, yes.
Because my thinking, and there's plenty of other examples of this, is that when someone like Breitling buys Universal Genève or whoever, they get, along with the name, they get to now, make that company, appoint a new board and do all the things. And they also get to claim, because they are now Universal Genève in every legitimate way, their history. They can say, in 1960 whatever, we made this watch because we're Universal Genève. Right? This is our back catalog. These awards, we won those awards. But in reality, it's a brand new company. It has all new employees. It has new production. It has new direction, new motivation. It's a new company. It's using the name and has the rights to, because it legally purchased them. Is this company Universal Genève? Is Hamilton, the famously American brand, which is famously no longer owned by Americans, is owned by Swatch Groups, made in Switzerland? Their history is watches in the United States, the trains and all this. And they say that, they claim that. That's on their website. It's part of their design. Those people aren't actually connected to the current company. Like, what's the through line? And is the new Universal Genève really related to the one that existed and then stopped existing and is now being restarted? That's my question.
Well, listening to that, I couldn't help but think of the ship of Theseus.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I'm with you.
So for folks that don't know the parable of the ship of Theseus, is there's a ship. It's on the ocean. It's traveling. As it's making its voyage, stuff just keeps falling off. It degrades over time. It needs a new layer of paint. It needs boards replaced, windows fixed. And it's all good because they have replacement parts on the ship. So they keep updating and refreshing the ship as it's falling apart. Now, after its year-long voyage, once it reaches its destination, someone asks, is this the same ship that departed port initially? And now you as a listener would answer yes or no. Is it the same ship, or is it no longer the same ship because it's been updated, refreshed, replaced, and made anew in certain respects? So I think there's some through line here between, is that brand, is Universal Genève still Universal Genève even though it's now owned by Breitling? And can Breitling claim all the landmark achievements, milestones, and celebrations that they've accomplished theirs?
Now, see, in your explanation, that ship would never stop sailing.
Right.
Universal Genève stopped sailing.
Yeah.
Right? The ship of Theseus is in storage, and a plank goes rotten, and they replace it. And then another plank rots, and they replace it. And after 50 years, it's all new planks. Everything has been replaced. The entire thing has been replaced. Is that the ship of Theseus? Because Theseus never stepped foot on that ship, right? It's been off the water and completely replaced slowly and with the same theoretical parts, but they're not the same parts. It's new parts. Is that the ship of Theseus? Your example, I would say, yeah, it's the same ship. That ship was sailing. They replaced parts. It's the same ship. I don't care if you replace 100% of the parts. That's the same ship. If that ship is in dry dock for a century, right?
Yeah.
That's I would say that's a different ship.
So it's the use case. It's, as in, it hasn't been running, it hasn't been in use. There has been a period of static and no movement has taken place. You would say it's no longer the same.
There was no sailors on this ship.
No sailors.
The ship was not being sailed. This is a new boat.
Well, like the definition then.
Bad. I'm not saying like, boo, UG.
Yeah.
You haven't stayed in business for 100 years. I hate you. I'll never, I'm not.
Right.
I just mean like.
Of course.
They will and are entitled to claim all those things. Should they? Could they? Can they?
Same thing could be said about Blancpain.
Yeah. A lot of brands.
Right.
A lot of brands.
Yep.
A lot of brands. And a lot of times they come back stronger and better than ever.
So is the question, what is a brand?
Yeah. And does a brand get to claim everything when we're talking about
achievements that they may not have done on their own, but have been, I don't say grandfathered in, but essentially
they basically purchased the rights to them.
Yeah.
Which they were for sale. You can buy them.
True. That's a deep philosophical question that I'm very curious what our listeners think. That's a deep question. I think, yeah, it really comes down to what you define as what a brand is. Like, brands constantly adjust their images. And like I mentioned earlier, like the whole goal of a brand is to try to cement themselves into the forefront of your thought and in your heart, right? It's the feeling that you get when you think about a brand, right? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you feel powerful, strong, determined, precision? Like what feelings does that brand invoke inside you? And that can change over time, right? I feel like certain brands have adjusted and have course corrected the proverbial ship over time. But I guess you more specifically, you're going like, if someone buys a brand, can they claim it as their own?
Right. It's not a regime change.
Right.
It's not new executives in the office. It's a new company, just with the name of an old company.
Mm-hmm. For what it's worth, I mean, I listened to a podcast with George Kearns, and he was explicitly asked what his long-term vision and plan was for Universal Genève, with the undertone of worry from old school fans of like, please don't make them 42 mil and add B01 movements to the new models. Like,
B01's a great movement.
It is a great movement. I love it. But the whole sort of approach to it was, we're worried that this is going to happen. Will it happen? And so his response was, no, it won't happen. Like, we are trying to respect the heritage, the ethos, the history, and the approach of what Universal Genève as a whole was for the watch community. And I'm fairly certain they were bringing in UG collectors to kind of advise and talk to what it meant for them. Kind of like you would bring in, super fans from within the community and do like market research or sit them down and kind of present them some ideas or run them through some decks or presentations. Like, here's what we are planning to do. Is this keeping in line with what you believe to have been this brand?
Be a lot more funny if George Kearns was like, yeah, I'm going to just make a Breiling with the UG label on it. Is that not what you want? Do you guys not have phones?
It'd be funny. And then the outcry.
Stir that pot.
Stir it. Really good topic. I love it. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, I think it's always...
Because I don't have the answer.
I was really hoping you did.
No.
I think it's a really interesting aspect to examine when it comes to brands, especially brands with like deep history. Mm-hmm. And what it means that they're continually in existence and continually operated, or they open and close again. And because these aren't just a brand the way it's like a label on clothing. These brand names are a mark of quality and craftsmanship and history.
Yeah.
And so if you're using that history, I'm sure UG will tap into their back catalog and produce newer versions of
famous iconic models from UG, yes.
Yeah. And that'll be either well loved or hated or whatever based on a variety of things. But it's interesting to see.
Yeah, because there's a lot of emotion and love and connection to a brand that's been around for a while, especially in the watch collecting community, or let's just say in the collecting community, full stop, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
How often have you heard, this isn't the fill in the blank that I know?
Oh, yeah.
Right, whether it's like the Matrix movies, right, or whatever, like even car brands, right, like manufacturers of high performance automobiles like Mercedes, BMW, Audi, right? You had the base model and then you had the high performance version of it, and now you have like 5 versions from like the top of the line to like the base model that didn't used to exist. Mm-hmm. And so enthusiasts are crying, you're diluting the brand. You're watering down what this used to mean. Like a BMW M used to mean this, and now you can have 7 different flavors of different M potency. So it's really it's a toasty subject, but we can go on forever, and also include the Moon Swatch, Snoopy. It's watering it down. There's a lot of people that don't like the Moon Swatch collaboration with Omega. It's very deep and very wide. It's a subject that we could talk for forever about. Let's move on to the next portion, shall we?
Subdials are in the wrong place.
All right, cool. Let's do some Q&As, shall we?
Oh, we got more? Okay.
We got some Q&As,
let's see what the See what the listeners have to say.
Yeah. I put out the call on Instagram and lovely people answered.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, thank you. The first question comes from the Mechanical Lily. The Mechanical Lily on Instagram says, while the question of why people love this hobby gets asked frequently, not many people ask what are some things that you dislike about the hobby/community.
Oh,
yeah.
Things I dislike.
Yeah, dislike about the hobby or the community.
Love you answered this one too, because I don't think it's anything contingent on just me.
That's true. Yeah, it's not really AD specific. It's a general Q&A.
What's hard, what I often dislike, is what I have heard called the Burger King client.
Oh, I do not know what this is. What is this?
What can you get for your burger at Burger King? What is their motto?
Oh, okay.
Right?
So, yeah, Burger King's motto is have it your way.
Have it your way.
Got it. Yep.
Okay. And look, these brands are doing a lot, and they're looking at it from, 10,000 feet. And they're looking down, and they're trying to plan stuff out, and they're trying to make different watches, and they're trying to appeal to all different factors. And often someone comes in and they're like, oh man, I love this watch. It's so great. It's perfect. Pause. If only it had a GMT hand, the bezel was made of ceramic, and it had an integrated bracelet, and it had a ceramic, and it's just like...
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist. And I get that, like, that would be the perfect watch for you, but, like, why? Why would a brand smush 5 different watches together and make an ultra-thin chronograph GMT superlative chronometer? Like, even if they could, then they'd just sell one watch.
Right.
Which is not what they want to do.
No.
And, like, oh man, I love this watch. Does it come in yellow? Man, it only comes in these colors. And like, I want people to get what they want. I want people to love what they buy and not to buy anything that they're not enthralled with. But like, this isn't a you get it all kind of thing.
Right.
You're probably going to have to compromise in some ways, unfortunately. But like, you're going to get an awesome thing if you plan it out and you look at your options. And, maybe there is a better watch for you than the one you're currently looking at, but it's not I want to mix and match and make my own, and I don't want onions, but I do want mayonnaise, and I want light mustard. Like, that's not what this industry is, at least currently.
And I want seedless buns. Okay.
Seeds have protein. They're good for you.
I like that. Okay, yeah, no, that's very good. Very good point made.
And really the hard part is, it's not that I don't like that people think that way. Think outside the box. Keep looking for the right watch.
Yeah.
This might be a disappointing process for you.
Right.
If every time you look at a watch, you're like, man, if only it was 2 millimeters thicker and the bezel was made of something else. And it's like, okay, but it's not.
You're setting yourself up for disappointment.
It's not. Like, and oftentimes, by the time people finish explaining what they wish it was, I'm like, cool, you just described a $90,000 watch. Because that was an incredibly complicated watch that's razor thin and it made of beautiful materials. That watch probably does exist, and maybe Patek will sell it to you.
Yeah, it's called the grand complication.
You know what I mean?
You got it. No, that's a great point. Let's see, my turn. What is something I dislike about? I think for me, the thing that stands out the most that kind of irritates me is when someone speaks as though they are the end-all be-all, sort of, I know what I'm talking about, and this is what it is. It's also why I shy away, and actually, I can confirm as a fact, none of my YouTube videos have the word review in the title. Because I think it's a little bit kind of overly confident in that what I have to say is sort of like the end all be all. Like, listen, everyone, I looked at this watch. Here's my opinions, and they are correct. They are exactly that. They are opinions, and they're mine. And that's also why I am very careful when someone reaches out to me and asks, "What are your opinions on this?" I'm very careful to caveat and say, here are my thoughts. Now, this is my personal opinion. You may not agree with that, and that's totally okay. So please don't take what I say as gospel, or really of what anyone says as gospel. Take it as input, take it as advice. I highly encourage people to make up their own minds. And this, of course, like opens up a whole can of like hype watches, right? Like, do I actually like this piece? Do I actually like the Panda Daytona? Or is it because everyone loses their mind over it that I am attracted to it? And it's a very difficult line to cut through. It's a very difficult sort of filter that you have to work through and decipher what is actually you and what is external influence. This kind of grinds my gears when someone speaks in absolutes and they're like, Mr. Wonderful famously said in one of his episodes, in one of his videos, like, you're not an official watch collector or an aficionado of a brand unless you own at least 3 of their watches.
Barf, lame.
Like, one, who are you? You're not like the president of watches. and 2, simmer down. That's me.
I actually recently had a conversation with a client who's relatively new into watches, and he asked me, he's like, you know what, a lot of people around me have really great watches, and you know, they're kind of telling me that, like, I gotta get a Submariner. Like, I have to have one for my collection. And I was like, do you want one? And he was like, yeah, it's a nice watch and I think I'd wear it.
Nope.
You don't need one. There's so many good watches out there. Like, there's no watch. You hear even with like the Speedmaster. Oh, every collection needs a Speedmaster. And like, hey, you and I both have Speedmasters and they're great watches. But no, never everyone needs that watch. It's a great watch. I like that watch in so many ways. The new white one's really cool. You don't bloody need it 100%. Unless you really want it. Then you need it.
100%.
Otherwise, nah.
Do your homework. Watch videos. Ask questions. But definitely make sure that you make up your own mind. And when you walk in and you ask for something, it's because you want it.
Everyone does need a G-Shock, though.
Let's go on a second question.
Okay, cool.
So Watching Bonsai asks, and this ties in really well, what's your advice for someone who just recently caught the watch bug?
Ooh, see previous question.
Yeah.
Don't be influenced by the wider community. It's really cool that this exists. It's really cool that we can tap into all these YouTube channels, all these interesting podcasts, all these great things out there. But if you're a little bit nervous that it's not for you, it's not for you. And also space it out, because this hobby, or whatever we want to call it, should be good for a lifetime, and let it last.
Yeah.
Let it last. Make sure you enjoy every second of it and enjoy those watches. There's tons of great places out there for advice, and it's just opinions.
Just opinions. Everyone has them.
Yeah.
I would echo that, and I would say this is a journey. And so rushing in and buying all the things, like if you bought 10 watches this year, the chances are that in 3 years' time, maybe even less, there are some watches that you purchased out of those 10 that you're no longer into. Because your tastes have evolved, your style has changed, your opinions have been, modified because you've learned, or you've, added additional information to the database that is your collective knowledge. And so don't rush into it, and soak it in, enjoy it. And yes, of course, there's definitely the sense of like FOMO. At the same time, you want to make sure that each purchase is something that you wanted to do and will be there for the journey, right? It stays with you and you're happy with it.
In addition to that, like, watches are really complex, and don't feel like lesser than, or that you need to understand every single component. I love my car. I like driving it. I get how a combustion engine works in theory. I'm not able to rebuild that or name every part, and it doesn't make me love my car any less.
It doesn't make you less of a car enthusiast either.
What a bridge is and how a balance wheel works, like, it's okay. If you want to learn, and there's plenty of opportunity. But if you don't, like, that's okay. You're not less of anything just because you're not fully briefed on, what Louis Breguet did a zillion years ago. Like, that's okay. Like, you don't have to master every component or any component unless you actually want to.
100%.
Yeah.
100% agree. I think that's all the time we have for this episode. We have more Q&As lined up, and if you would like to send in more from your end, dear listener, please do so. But for now, I think we're going to call it. Yes, I think.
Yeah. Preference to send in more Q's than A's. It's easier for us to deal with, I've found.
Very good point, mate. Thank you. See, that's why you're here.
Yeah, you need a co-host for this kind of thing.
Need a co-host. I send me your Q's. I don't need any A's. I have my own A's. Just send me Q's, questions. Conor, thank you so much for your time. If the people wanted to get a hold of you on the socials, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can find me at Watches and Blunders, BLUNDERS _ between the words on Instagram. Let's follow each other. Let's talk.
Okay. And on that note, it's time to conclude episode 4 of the Timist Podcast Series. A sincere thank you for hanging out with us. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself and had some fun along the way. If you did, then please push all the buttons that will help you hear more of us in the future. And a special thank you goes out to my co-host Conor. If you want to connect with Conor and talk watches, then I'd recommend you follow him on Instagram. And speaking of socials, if you want to continue the conversation, you can find me at _Timist_IG on Instagram. Thanks for listening. I'm the Timist. Be well, and I'll catch you in the next one.